Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be taking a look through my collection of vintage Ed McBain first paperback editions. Now I've got about a dozen American first editions, and then I've got a whole host of the British ones. Not quite all of them, but the majority of them, and they're all manner of different publishers. He was predominantly Penguin, Spear, Mandarin. He was all over the place during his writing career, and I think they're going to make a very interesting video. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Right, so we'll start off with my American first editions, and this is the very first one. And when I say Ed McBain, these are predominantly the 87th Precinct books. I've got some other books by McBain which aren't in that series, and I've also got the ones that I'm missing in first edition. I have got the whole run now in some form, but they're reprint copies, so I've got a big old stack of reprint stroke reader copies as well, and I've not brought them down to be cleaned today. I've just stuck to the first editions, and this is the American first of the first book. And look at it, it's got a tiny little sticker removal mark on there, but these are quite scarce these now. Perma was the publisher. I need to be careful with these because they are quite collectible. First printing February 1956. So McBain's 87th Precinct didn't come out in the UK till a little bit later, when Penguin got hold of him. So, but prior to that, Corgi had some of his other more famous works, such as the Blackboard Jungle. There we are. Now all of these are going to need a brush off along the top, and on the whole I'll give them a gentle polish as well. Got a little Time magazine insert in that one. That's nice. I'd love to get some more of the early ones in American first, but they just don't seem to turn up. And I have to admit, I haven't looked for a little while. I tend to have a look every 6 months or so online against my wants list to see if I can find any more that I'm missing. I've been collecting McBain in paperback first for about 5 years now, and the American ones hardly ever turn up over here. I know my friend Gary Levisi over in the States has got the very first one, Cop Hater, and it's a signed paperback first as well. Most of them do mention an 87th Precinct on the front, and if you're unfamiliar with it, it's a precinct in America, a hypothetical precinct, and the city it's set in is sort of like New York, but it's not actually called New York, and but that's what it mirrors basically. And McBain himself rode around with the police officers in the back of a police car, with the detectives, just to get a really accurate grip on how they spoke and how to write a really good police procedural, which is what in a lot of cases these are. But they're a fantastic read and I love them very much. And so these American ones are particularly gorgeous, but you don't really see them over here at all. I've had to really keep my eyes peeled for them. Found an odd one here, an odd one there, a few mail order. I've never found any in the wild, I don't think. And to be honest, I think the American first set is more entertaining than the British ones. You know, they look better and they got more variety. But these are all pretty nice condition actually. It's really just a couple of them have got sticker marks, and then it's the top edges that I'm going to give a nice brush off to. Here's a later Dell printing of Till Death, so still an American one, so we'll do the Americans first. It's just the first Dell printing of that, but not the first printing in total. And this is a gold medal. once again, this one says it's a first, July 54, but it's absolutely not. Look at the price, 75 cents. This is a reissue that came out in the early 1970s. So that is my US one. So what I'll do, I'll just split them into a couple of piles, and we'll give them a brush off, because none of them needed any real repair per se, which is good news. But they are going to need the top edges brushing. So once again, these don't seem too bad, and one of the reasons that might be is because a lot of American books, when you tend to buy them online, they come in paperback bags, which have actually stopped them getting too dusty. And that may be a reason why these aren't too bad. I don't think that'll be the case for the British ones. So that's the sort of the smaller format McBains, and don't they look good? I really do like them. These are the more traditional A format ones. But this is, I believe, strictly just my 87th Precinct and American ones. I've got more McBain in my collection. As I've got two big stacks of reprints, stroke reading copies, and I've also got some of his other non-87th Precinct works. Okay, so these are the British ones now. So this is Penguin. They got the 87th Precinct, very distinctive 87th Precinct logo along the middle there. And these are British Penguin ones. This is their take on the very first one. And Penguin did most of the early ones, but this first one in Penguin, 1963, so quite a bit later. And it's funny because these are actually quite easy to get hold of, but I was surprised that some of mine are in not quite as nice condition as I would like, you know, but it's okay. It's a really nice one with the needle on the front. It's one I haven't been able to get in American first. It's quite pricey because of the drug connotations. So the first American of the push is really expensive. This one's one that I'm going to put on my wants list because it's a bit tatty, and none of these are really that difficult to get, so there's no real reason that I've got a lower grade one than this, but I don't mind because this can become my reading copy. And the good thing about particularly the earlier 87th Precinct novels is that they can be done pretty much in one or two sittings because they're not that long, the books, you know. But very, very entertaining, and I shall be making sure I take one on holiday with me in a couple of months' time. This one is next chronologically, See Them Die, published by Foursquare, which became the New English Library. (1968), that one. This is a later one. As I said, these are in the order that they need to be written, or need to be read rather, so I like to read my books. I'll take that back. The first few I do think benefit from being read in order. Later on, they don't really need to be read in order, although I'm the sort of reader that wouldn't dream of reading a series of books outside of the published order, to be honest. So this is the correct order as in how they were published, although this is the first British edition of that one, so it took ages before it actually came out. Empty Hours. This is 3 short 87th Precinct stories popped into one, and I believe these got published all over the place initially, various sort of magazines and anthologies, that sort of thing. This one's got, it feels like it's got a tiny little bit of sticker cover residue, which when we get to polishing, that should come up okay, with a bit of luck, you know. Another penguin. Quite an interesting little cover there with the arrow pointing to it's supposed to be a marksman, sniper on the roof. It's been ages since I've had these actually all out in one foul swoop, so I hope you're enjoying it. And if you're not a fan, if you've never really tried an Ed McBain, I really do recommend them. They are very, very good. Got a bit of a name inside that one, but I can't really do much about it. Here's a pan. He who hesitates, got a little sticker on the front saying a new pan, which I think usually denotes it's a first. And this is, as I said, I brought down my first editions. Yeah, there we are. So 1970. The early ones in pan, as he transitions from penguin over to pan, I think are really quite difficult. And there's a few in this New English Library. In fact, there's another one that I've got bookmarked. I must get around to sniping it and picking it up for my collection, which is another, I think there's 3 in New English Library. So he really did, like a lot of authors, I suppose, he did share himself out a little bit amongst different publishers. Not that there's anything wrong with doing that. I said a lot of authors did do that. If they had a clever manager or literary agent, they would tout their works across several to get the best price for their author. Lovely. They do make quite a display when you get them all out. Back to penguin again now with doll. It's another 87th precinct, but they don't they're not using the 87th precinct like little logo that they did earlier, but that is an 87th precinct one. Pan again now, jigsaw. And he really was quite prolific, was old McBain. Back to penguin now. See the little 87th in the corner there. Nice bit of branding and marketing. It's not a great copy either. It's got the writing inside quite worn, so that's another one which I think I'm going to upgrade and put on my upgrade list when I come to edit this video. Killer's Wedge. This is much better. Still been read a couple of times, but just better condition. Killer's Payoff. This one's also a little bit rough. I seem to remember I picked up a little lot and they worked out at 50p each, and some of these penguin ones are in there. But most recently, the last couple of decent job lots I got were much more modern McBains, which is where I was mainly missing them. I'm trying to think, because I do a bit of travelling and I cannot remember the last time I saw someone in public reading a McBain. It seems to have disappeared, sadly, since there's no new stuff coming out. This is another series that he did, Matthew Hope, different character. Mary, another Matthew Hope one. These are much longer books, these later ones. The books did get longer towards the end of McBain's life. Another one, money. Money. And some of these tail end ones in first edition paperback are actually quite difficult to find in first edition. This is, it's a 20-year-old book that now, and I guess at the time they weren't selling that greatly, copy-wise, and it's taken a little bit of time before they've gone back out onto the second-hand market. That's all I can really surmise. Fiddlers. Another 87th Precinct one there. It's like a violin there. A fiddle, in fact. Spear one. These can be quite tricky to find because a lot of them have got orange, yellow or red spines, and the Ed McBain stays good, but the actual name of the book fades if it's been left out in the sun. They're really tricky to find. Sometimes I don't mind if the overall book is in nice condition, so this one is actually a really nice solid copy, so I'm not fussed about it, and you can at least read it. But that's been left in the sun, and unfortunately that's caused it to fade out, as is so common with reds and yellows, pinks, that sort of colour, highly susceptible to sun damage. A few dark ones on here. I think it's mainly the penguins again. But I know I've got a few to upgrade, and they won't cost a lot. I see them all the time on catalogues and things like that, but because they're already on my list as ones that I've got, I never really pick up that they're ones to upgrade. Like looking at it now, well, we'll have a look in a minute, but that doll is another one which has actually got a bit of a sort of faded spine. I'm going to put these into 2 wedges because they're a bit too thick to just hold in one hand. Lovely. It's another Matthew Hope one now. Snow White and the Red Rose. Sphere. (1985). And these have really sort of aged gracefully, these ones from the 80s, haven't they, and the late 70s. A lot of them have just got picture jackets instead of artwork, which I think was the trend back then, they would put a picture on. Cinderella. And some of these are so tough to find in paperback first. I think predominantly these pound ones are super difficult. Only because trying to find them online, and then you might see them and they don't always have the printing page inside as well, Bread. Got a nice copy of that. And these are other ones which you really need to keep an eye out to check that the spines haven't faded. It's a nice cover, isn't it, with the hands there on the door. Blood relatives. So long as you both shall live. something on the back there, but it came off with a scratch on my fingernail. Calypso, it's got a stamp inside, but not too fussed about that. Ghosts. Some of these I've had multiple copies of, and I still haven't got really great condition ones. It's just they do, or they can, get read and reread time and time again. Because he's that sort of an author, you know. Heat. I think because I've had so many copies through my hands of some of these books, the ones that have ended up as the first edition copies in my collection are actually pretty good. I'm really, these are much better than I thought they were going to be. A few just need the cover shining on them, really, just to give them that extra bit of oomph and take off any sticker residue on a couple of them. It's always the top edges that are worse, and to be honest, these they're not too bad. It's just some of the earlier Penguin ones were quite dusty. And looking at the spines, you can see some of them, like that one there, for example, you can't really see the title doll because that orange has faded there on that Penguin one. So that's one that I'm going to stick on my upgrade list. These other ones with the red writing, it needs to be really deep red because that's how they would have been. Another little clue, like the Pan logo there, that should have been pink and orange, and that's really faded. So I think that was white to begin with, but it's been in the sun and the logo's faded. It's not the end of the world, but if you are looking for perfection, then you need to keep an eye out for that. That's a big thick one here, just under 300 pages. So here's one of those ones, and look how nice and bright that is. That has never been near any sunshine, and that's sort of what you want. Whereas this one has, look, it's almost gone completely. Poison. A little bit of tanning on the inside there. What was this one? 87. And if you are at all curious about Ed McBain and the 87th Precinct, or Ivan Hunter, is one of his many pseudonyms, there's a great podcast called Hark, and it's the 87th Precinct podcast. And they're just about, as I film this, to have an episode on the very last episode, the very last book in the 87th Precinct series. So now it will be a perfect time to go back. When I finish each one, I then go back and listen to the episode, sometimes multiple episodes on a particular book. I don't know, because I'm listening to the podcast as I go through it. I've no idea if they intend doing some of the other series once they've finished on the 87th Precinct, or McBain's other works, because he did so much. I hope they do. The earliest stuff I've got from him is from Manhunt magazine, and also he wrote under various pseudonyms for some sleaze mags in the early 60s, and they're really quite rare, and I've luckily got some of those. I'd never read them because it's just, sleaze, but it's nice to have them. Sometimes just for the titles. These are the 90s ones now, early 90s. Ladies too. This is the ladies of the 87th Precinct. Romance. Coronet. Change publisher again. This last one here is Back to Nell, New English Library. The Big Bad City. There we are, 1999. That's the most up-to-date one I've got. As I said, I haven't got them all, but I've got most of them. Let's put these into 3 piles. And then we're going to need to start shining them. Pretty nice. They weren't too bad, those dust-wise, but they are all definitely going to benefit from a nice shine. So that's what we'll do next. Okay, so we'll get the first pile out here. Now these are the ones we're going to need to be extra careful on because these are the American firsts, and because they're older, they're not quite as glossy as some of the 80s ones. Now I'm going to give all of these a polish because I do believe they need it. Don't need any glue. So I've got a nice clean bit of rag there. I'm not going to spread anything directly onto the books themselves. I've got Mr. Sheen here. I'm just going to get the corner damp. Dab it in so it's not too wet. And very, very carefully on these early ones. Just going to give them the once over. Now these have never been done, but if you remember, that one had a little bit of, it looked like a little bit of sticker residue in the top corner there, which I've just given a rub to. Still feel a little bit there, but I'm not going to push it. I just don't want to risk it on such an expensive book. And he is quite dear, that one. I think I'll just move the camera down a bit. I want you to be able to see what I'm actually doing here. Even though these aren't perfect, they're pretty nice copies on the whole. I can see just little bits of dirt and smudges and stuff getting picked up on this, and it is super satisfying to know that these are really, really nice, clean copies now on all the edges. This one's not quite as nice condition. It's got a tear in the top left of the cover there, but can't do anything about that because the actual cover is ripped. But overall it's not too bad. So I've been having to think about what to do next week, and I think it's going to be the turn of my vintage Panther paperback. So Panther were one of those sort of 50s pulp publishers that popped up and lasted a long, long time. And I've got a feral collection. I've had some new editions lately, and I think it'd be quite nice to go through those. The early ones, there's a lot of cool sci-fi, SF to have a look at. Amazing how quickly the duster dries out. These are definitely benefiting from a clean. These old Penguin copies. Lovely. So that's the first stack done, and probably the most delicate stack at that. Well, looks like a sticker mark of some sort on the back there. Just give that a sec. Gone. And just like that, the dirt was gone. Cool. Lovely. Okay, carrying on with stack number 2 of 4. And these modern ones are much more polishable, if that's even a word, but by that I mean you could almost put the polish straight on, but I'm going to do it delicately so that it's only used where it needs to be used. Some more penguins. Yeah, that one had a bit of sticker mark on as well, sticker residue. So we'll do the rest of it and give that a bit of a close attention. The Thing is, there is sticker residue on there, but where it's not been done very well, it's taken a little bit of the cover off. So I'm being careful. Under the light, that looks about to have just got it all, but you can sort of see there must have been a sticker there of some sort. But this is as good as it's going to get. It's a tiny little sticker mark, but not too bad. Not too bad. We're not going to lose any sleep over it. Try and get to a clean a bit of the cloth now. I don't know what was in that top corner, but we've got it off anyway. It's made quite a difference there. I know for a fact I've got more McBains in my collection. In fact, I know I've got more Penguin ones that aren't here. So, but I guess they're not 87th Precinct. They must be in with my other ones, but that's okay. When I eventually lick the list and I have it all complete, then I'll do a proper in-depth review on my other channel of all the McBains in order. Sure, it'll be within the next 2 years if I'm lucky. Another black mark there come off, that's good. Definitely getting some benefit from cleaning these. They're definitely coming up quite nicely indeed. It's got the remnants of nicotine staining on the spine. Yeah, look at that yellow there. Ugh. At that mark on the cover there, it's difficult to see if it's pen or pencil, so I'm going to try my soft soft rubber on it, see if it is pencil or not. Well, it's fading it. I believe it was actually pen, but the soft rubber is just sort of taking it off. Look at that. And there's that little dot there, which has also got it on. There we are. Look at that. On the spot running repairs. Come up lovely. Lovely. So that is stack number 2. Stack 3 now. Not many old ones in here, so the duster glides over the covers a bit easier because they're glossier. I'm looking forward to digging out my panthers next week. They're going to be good fun. I enjoy my Panther books quite a lot, and they do seem very, very difficult to find these days. But I've sort of picked them up over the decades, and I've not got anything like an authoritative collection or anything like that. But they are pretty interesting, and I think the early 50s ones, early to mid 50s ones, were really quite something. Lots of early science fiction to enjoy, so, and some nice crime and war titles and what have you. So that will be definitely next week's video. And I don't know, there may be too many to do in one here. I might need to split it over 2 weeks, but we'll see. And after that, we better do another vintage Pam video. These aren't too bad at all, and I suspect I probably gave these a polish when I first got them, and that's been within the last few years, so they're not too bad, all things considered. And if you like this sort of content, do please, if you haven't already, check out my main channel. Just under Jules Barrett, you'll see it, where I cover books, and old toys, and I give lots of things a clean. Sort of retro-related stuff, bubblegum cards, a bit of retro gaming as well. So it's quite a mixture, but there's book content every single week without fail, and lots of general stuff for the vintage paperback book collector for you to enjoy. All right, last pile. So I hope you've enjoyed this hour cleaning this collection of Ed McBain's. I certainly have enjoyed going through them again. It's made me want to dig one out. I know I've got a short break in July, and I'll be taking one on holiday with me then. As I said, you can get through one in an afternoon, no problem, so that'll be one of the days sorted with my catch-up reading. But I am one of those guys who, when an author's dead, and I know there's not going to be any more new stuff, I try and eke their content out then. So there's a few authors like that, like say Patrick O'Brien. He did, I think, 19 or 20 of the Captain Jack Aubrey novels, and I read one of those a year, generally. But yeah, if you have enjoyed it, do please give it a thumbs up. Spread the word, particularly if you can get something up on the Unintentional ASMR Reddit groups, always very popular. That would be most useful, and I would be most grateful. Thanks very much for watching today. If you've not already subscribed, do please hit that subscribe button. Help me get to 1,000 subs. It shouldn't be too much longer now. I'm at about 780 790, something like that. It's only a couple hundred more. Then I promise to stop banging on about it. Promise, Gov. It's just like a little confirmation. We've got 1,000 fans on here who enjoy this sort of content. And I shall look forward to seeing you next week when I make a start going through my vintage Panther books. So until then, bye.